Hello and welcome to Sustainability Unplugged. I'm Lynn.
And I am Jessica. Welcome. How are you?
I'm okay.
Yeah?
Mhm.
Just living your best life?
Sure.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying.
It's
25.
winter. It's January.
Oh,
It's
yeah. This is where we differ again. You're like, I need the sun in the summer, and I'm like, I need the winter and the snow.
yeah.
Yeah, so we're different.
I would definitely like if it was a choice to just hibernate all winter.
Yeah.
I would,
Oh,
and I
really?
sometimes do.
Hey, to each their own. I feel alive in the winter. Like, cold weather makes me feel vibrant and alive. I know that's weird, but we're different. We're different people. It is what it is, you know? So we talked about the holidays. We barely snuck through.
Yeah.
I barely snuck through. But the highlight of the holidays is always like a good old gift. Did you get anything good?
I don't receive gifts, so no. I
No one gives you gifts?
no.
Shit, I gotta get you a gift next year. Like no one gets you gifts. Like how does you guys just get gifts for the family or for the kids and
Yeah.
stuff?
I mean, my parents give us cash,
Oh, okay, so
so that's
cash
it.
was your highlight.
I mean, I guess. I mean,
Oh.
it's fine. Like, I'm grateful and
Yeah.
thankful, but it's not like I don't consider it it's not like a fun gift.
Yeah. I have noticed that as I've gotten older, a lot of my friends, their families are like that. They really don't do gifts. It's more about spending time together, which I absolutely respect. Um, my family's just so small that we are still gift givers
Yeah.
to everyone. Yeah, yeah. Um,
I asked my dad whether he wanted the money to go to new tires, tempting, right?
tempting.
Or a trip.
What did
So
he say?
he said he would prefer it for a trip, but also if I didn't, if I wasn't going to go anywhere, then sure, I
Okay.
could spend it on new tires. I mean, the tires are getting bought no matter what.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so a trip. And I was like, well, I just scheduled a trip. So, I'll,
You just scheduled a trip?
yeah,
Where are you going?
Spain and Portugal.
This is the first I'm hearing about, like for real. This is my actual
Yeah,
reaction. I had no idea. That's exciting.
yeah,
I knew you wanted to go back to like Europe and
yeah.
see a different area.
I was shopping around for flights. It was actually a huge ordeal um, to get it booked, but yeah,
When are you
a
going?
flight. The end of April, beginning of May.
I'm
10,
so
10
excited.
days. So
Okay. Congrats.
thanks.
Did you text your dad and be like, "Hey"?
No, no, I had already booked it. Like I had booked it
Oh,
like the week before.
okay.
So
So you're like, "Guess what? Now I have spending
and I was
money
like,
for
actually, I
Spain."
do have it planned. So yeah,
I
I'll
love
just
it.
spend it.
Good for you. I like that. Can't wait to hear all about it.
Yeah. And what did you get?
Well, I was going to tell you about one thing, but then I remembered my actual favorite gift. You don't know what the other one was, so it can't be rude to anybody. So I have a rain barrel in the backyard that I
Okay.
use to water the plants and all of that stuff. But I did not realize when I put it in, it doesn't have any pressure. There's no water pressure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I just fill up like the waterer and do it that way. It's super inefficient. So I did some research and they have these things where you can take off the top of the rain barrel and you put them in there and they're water pressurizers and you hook them up to the hose and then you can spray the water on the garden from the rain barrel. And I got one for Christmas. And I wish that I've never said this in my life, but I wish it wasn't winter and I could use it. Yeah. So look forward to some videos of me using my water pressurizer for my rain barrel. I just didn't do enough research when you know me,
Yeah.
balls to the wall, I just get stuff. I just go. And I got a rain barrel and I got it installed and then I was like, shit, I didn't do this right. So I had
Mm.
to backtrack a little bit
But I'm
and
thankful you didn't because you've mentioned that to me.
yes.
So that whenever I get mine, that I will
Yeah.
have all the tools.
I'm what they like to call a cautionary tale. Yeah. So you're welcome in advance. You're welcome. Yeah. So that was my favorite gift. Um, yeah, I'm really, really excited to use it.
Okay.
We'll see how it goes.
Well, and using it will probably impact your environment. I don't know if you don't. Do you think you'll be able to use more water out of the rain barrel?
Absolutely. Yes.
because of this. So
Yes.
probably your carbon footprint is decreased
Your ability to transition to how we're doing the episode, what we're doing the episode about, is like on point
because we
today.
didn't have any notes
I
on
know.
how we were transitioning,
No, it was perfect.
which we should not ever do again.
I think. Well, we'll talk about.
I was like, how am I going to get into this?
We're just free through here, and yeah. You did a great job. You did a great job. So let's talk about carbon footprint, and then we can decide if my carbon footprint is lessened or greater.
I don't know.
By using this. Okay. So, we talked a ton about this before. You've always said, like, I want to learn more. I don't understand how this works. I'm going to do my best to explain this in a way that makes it easy for everyone. So here goes nothing. Okay. So, in the simplest of terms, a carbon footprint is the total amount of greenhouse gases, including carbon dioxide and methane, mostly carbon dioxide, that a human emits just by doing their daily activities. Okay? Simplest way to put it. So the average person in the US, their carbon footprint is a total of 16 metric tons. Not surprisingly, that is one of the highest in the world just because of who we are and how we live. World average is 5 metric tons. Okay.
So when we talk about tons,
Mm-hmm.
ton is a weight.
Yes.
It is 2,000 pounds or 2,205 pounds, depending on where you're at in the world. So it's a weight. It is.
Yes. In the simplest of terms, it's how you weigh carbon as a gas.
Okay.
Yes. That's the simplest way to put it. So, like, if you're thinking about back in science class, which I'm pretty sure I didn't pay attention.
I'm not a scientist.
Yeah, I'm not either, man. But like, when you're learning about the periodic table and the weight of gases, like the way you measure carbon is by metric tons. So the way you measure your carbon footprint is also by metric tons. So that's just the way that it's done. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So technically by math standards. We got this, right?
Science
and math. Ah, my favorite subjects. Okay. So everything that we do on a daily basis causes some sort of emission. Until we're 100% off of fossil fuels, it's just going to be that case, right? I'm not condoning 100% off of fossil fuels. The world would shut down. That's not what we're doing here. We're just simply helping you to understand how to calculate your carbon footprint so that you can understand your impact in the case of emissions.
And fossil fuels emit carbon.
Correct.
Which is where the footprint comes from.
Yes. Okay. Exactly. Okay. So there are major factors when you are calculating your carbon footprint. So if you go out on the internet and you just Google carbon footprint, there's a million different options that you can use. The majority of them, on very unspecific terms, are going to use these categories. You can get very, very detailed on these carbon footprints, or you can use a little bit of an easier calculator. But these are the different aspects of it. So 32% is based off of your household, your home, the things that create emissions within your home. How you heat and cool your home, what kind of HVAC system you have, what kind of furnace you have, those types of things. How many people you have in your home, the size of your home, the age of your home, those types of things. So again, the US tends to have a larger carbon footprint because we live in larger homes versus other places in the world. I live in a 12 to 1500 square foot home with just me and the dog. In other parts of the world, that's much less common, right? There'd be 4 or 5 people in this home. So the aspect of your home and the emissions that it creates would be shared amongst those people versus just being mine. So that's kind of how it's calculated. When thinking about the household and the emissions that it creates, just some ideas, because when you're going through the carbon calculators online, that's how you choose to do it. It will always give you ideas on how to cut down on your emissions. So when you're talking about the household specifically, your favorites, You can change the temperature seasonally, up in the summer, down in the winter, and it can affect your carbon footprint. And then also, just like we've mentioned before, energy efficiency when thinking about items in your home or renovations that you're doing in your home. They can have a big impact on your carbon footprint.
So you know that I recently got a smart thermostat put in.
Yes.
So it's it gets cooler at night
Uh-huh.
automatically. I don't know.
Okay.
I haven't touched it. So
It's
but it
just one of
just
those
does
things you
it.
set it and forget.
Um I didn't even set it. Like tell it to
Oh,
do that.
it just knew?
It just and I don't know how it knows when I go to bed. I and when I wake up. So it gets down. So like it's set at I don't know 68 or 69 on a normal basis, and then it will go down to like 64, 65 in the
Mhm.
middle of the night. But then by the time I wake up, like by 7, it's back up.
So I've seen some that they have like sensors in the house,
Yeah.
and sometimes they'll sense movement, that kind of thing, and they'll do it according to that. Mine is not as smart as yours. I have to set the time frame for mine to go down and up for sleep, and like you set the time frame for when you're
Mhm.
asleep or whatever.
I
But
don't know if maybe it was a default, but I
oh,
don't know. I haven't looked at it, but I just noticed it did it.
that would
I
be
don't know how I
interesting.
feel about it, but
Do you physically feel a difference?
I my skin is cold. Like my nose
Oh.
is cold.
Which is saying a lot for you because cold usually doesn't it doesn't affect you as much as, like,
No,
heat
it
does.
does. I hate being cold. It's like I get cold and I can't warm up.
Oh.
So like my nose is cold while I'm
We're gonna
sleeping.
have to look at these settings. Interesting. I don't think I knew that. Okay. Well, second, 28% is transportation. So this is, for instance, how you get to work, what you drive to work, what bus you take to work, what mode of transportation you take to work, what mode of transportation you take on vacation. Do you fly commercial like us normal people, or do you fly private? I do not fly private at all. So I drive to work every day. So that contributes to my carbon emission. But I drive an electric car. So it lessens that contribution that I have to my carbon footprint. I don't use public transportation. I never use public transportation. It's not a prominent choice in my life. Not really in our city either. Personal choice for me. I know you've used it in the past. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
a
just
little
some.
bit.
Yeah, it's just not a big thing in our city. I also don't fly a ton. I don't travel a whole lot, and when I do, I love to drive. I know we're different.
Ugh.
I love a good road trip. You are different for that. So some different ideas to change your carbon footprint, to lessen it would be, can I drive instead of fly? I think I've probably exhausted all of my options as far as driving destinations.
You could drive anywhere though,
I know,
right?
but like, do I have the effort behind it to drive 10 plus hours? I think I've gone
Yeah.
all the places I could possibly drive. So we'll see if I can push that. I know you're not coming with me, so I won't invite you.
Well, I don't know. I there was a this summer maybe I was looking at like a Smoky Mountains.
Ooh,
What's those
yeah.
states around there?
Mhm.
I need to check off, and so I was looking at it, um, and I was looking at going to Asheville, and I was looking at flying, and it was like really hard to fly there and
Oh,
expensive, and so I was like, well, and if I got there, I was gonna have to rent a car
oh.
anyway, and then I was looking at what I wanted to do, and I was like, oh, I feel like I might have to drive just because it was gonna
How
make
far of a
more
drive is it
sense.
to
I don't
Asheville?
know. I didn't get that far.
I'd be willing to go to like Tennessee.
Well, but once you're already in Tennessee,
Might as well just go the extra mile.
right?
Okay, we'll talk.
Because you're gonna drive on the byway and stuff
Yeah.
around, so
So the next pie piece, if you will, is 14%, and it is food. So what your diet consists of, where you buy your food. Do you shop seasonally? So do you shop at the farmer's market? Do you buy the stuff that's in season versus out of season? All of those things are going to affect that percentage of your carbon footprint. So some of the ideas pretty obvious. We've talked about this. Eating more vegetables in your diet. They just have less of a carbon footprint. Shopping locally, so there's less there as well. And then only buying what is in season. I personally feel like seasonally buying for us, especially this time of year, is very difficult because what is in season in the dead of January?
Um, I saw something. I was scrolling,
Aren't we all?
and I think it said this was like in December, and it was like December seasonal vegetables or something,
Mhm.
and it was interesting. I don't think there were any that I would eat.
They're all weird. Well, I have like
Maybe like some
root
root
vegetables.
vegetables, maybe.
Yeah, I have magnets that I got from the Overland Park Farmers Market. So they're like, what's in season on this one? So it's like fall, spring, whatever.
Yeah,
There isn't one for winter. There just isn't one.
yeah,
It's like early summer, late summer, fall, spring, and that's it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you need
So,
to start canning. You didn't can this year. You said you were going to. And you
well, I
didn't.
would really like to learn. Um, we'll see how that goes.
I think we can do it.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I'm gonna.
Are you in on this?
Yeah, I've done
Okay.
it. I mean, I'm.
Next episode.
It's
Lynn
also.
teaches Jessica how to can. It's not gonna go well.
No,
Is it hard?
I don't think it's hard. It's a lot of work. I mean,
Okay.
I feel like the hard part for me was just like standing and cutting your. Like I canned green beans, right?
Okay.
Then you're like cutting,
I do
snipping
grow
them
green beans in
and
the
stuff.
garden.
Which is like the most. The prep is like
Oh, I'm in the
prepping your
kitchen all the time.
vegetables,
Yeah.
right? So, and a lot of standing, which
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll talk for sure. Okay. So the last pie piece is 26%, and that's your shopping, your consumerism. So how much stuff you buy, where you shop for your stuff, all of those are taken into consideration. So food was one part. So this would be other consumables. Um,
Target.
Target, yeah. All your Target pickups. Um, so I me personally, I don't buy a ton of stuff. I just don't. I don't always shop secondhand. It's not my go-to. I'm trying to do better, but secondhand shopping obviously is a better option. Um, is a 2025 goal to be better about what I consume when I consume it. I'm just not a big shopper in general. So the ideas behind doing better here are just buying less stuff,
Mhm.
being less um, capitalistic consumerism like we are here in the US. Very
God,
hard.
I love capitalism. Just
We're gonna do an episode
I
about
love
that.
stuff
Yeah, I
so
don't.
much.
Okay, let me rephrase that. I do. I'm trying to retrain
But
my
yeah,
brain.
you're better at
Um, we're both children of the 80s. Like
yeah.
that's what the 80s were about. Like more, 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 right? Like I'm having to retrain myself.
Yeah, I feel like mine is that because growing up, I couldn't have stuff, right? Like we
Oh,
couldn't afford it, and like I
okay.
didn't get
You didn't have
stuff,
like a
and
Walmart
so
around the corner though either.
correct.
It wasn't in your face.
Um,
Yeah.
and so I feel like mine is once I was out on my own, it was like I can buy whatever I want.
And I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have since I'm gonna help you can,
Oh, you guys heard it. She has agreed.
you are gonna help me repair. Can you help me so
Repair
my
clothing?
no.
Oh, repair.
My wine fridge
Okay.
doesn't cool anymore.
Oh, that's so sad.
And I would like to try, I am
Okay.
not mechanically inclined, but I would like to try to repair it instead of getting a new one
I'm in. Let's do this.
because I need one,
YouTube could teach us anything.
supposedly.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, you are mechanically inclined.
I'm
You replaced an
100.
electrical outlet in your home.
That is not hard.
I can't do that.
What do you mean you can't do it?
Okay, I've never tried.
Yeah, it's not
But
hard.
the idea of electricity is like,
And then when I went to do my thermostat, I was like, nope. I did. I got down to the furnace and I was like, nope,
nope.
I'm not. no desire to get electrocuted today. So
Well, if we're ready for the wine fridge, like I'm here for it. Let's do it.
yeah,
Okay,
and
awesome.
and this month it's getting done.
Oh, okay. So January goal. Let's do it.
Hmm.
Okay. Um okay, so those are the four things that mainly contribute to your carbon footprint. Now, again, you can get super super detailed about it, but those are the things on the larger scale that are going to uh, be incorporated with your carbon footprint. So, when we're talking about these things, we're mainly talking about like our individual carbon footprints,
Yeah.
right? It you can also do the carbon footprint of a company, an event, like a concert or whatever. What are they? What's the one in the desert that everybody goes to?
Coachella,
Coachella. Yeah, like you could do Coachella's carbon footprint.
Burning Man.
Burning Man. Yes, I feel like that would be super fun. Or you can do a specific product, right? It can be calculated however you so choose. But you and I were more so talking about individual carbon footprints for this. So how do I calculate it? You can't calculate it in on the calculator in your pocket that my math teacher said I wouldn't have in my pocket all the time, which is a lie. But there are a couple options. So you and I both have used, in order to calculate ours, we used coolclimate.org, and the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, also has their own calculator. So the Cool Climate one was a little bit more detailed than the EPA one. You do have the option to do a more advanced calculation. Again, you can go on websites galore and get crazy about this. My first warning to people would be that have your information ready.
You're not
You're
gonna know what information you need though.
well,
Like I
like
had no idea what
true.
it was gonna ask.
So some of the things it asks you is either how many kilowatts you use in electricity each year, or how much you spend, how many miles you drive per year, what your maintenance on your car is like, um, what kind of source of electricity you have in your house, whether it's gas, different things like that, right? So just kind of
Hmm.
in general, having an idea of those things really, really help. So, um, I did mine on both sites.
Hmm.
On average, I would say mine's 10, 10 metric tons because one was 9 and then one was 11. Not an exact science. So mine was about 10 metric tons of CO2 per year.
Mine.
Yes.
Um. Well, the first time I did it was I only did the cool climate one.
Okay.
Um. It was 43 at the beginning, and I kind of used a lot of the average. Is I also didn't understand part of it, so um, I did 43, but I did get it down to 38. I was just got into some more details, like looked
Hmm.
up um part of the electricity was asking like if any of it is um like efficient energy. So I got on Evergy's website, to see how much wind they are using using providing wind energy
Producing
producing.
all of the above.
Whatever word applies. Um and then like just more on my mileage and my what I'm purchasing and stuff. So 38 tons. Yeah.
So we looked at ours compared to each other, and I was surprised. I thought our biggest one would be transportation,
Hmm.
and it wasn't hugely different. It wasn't the one that was significantly different. Significantly
Right.
different was household. And
Uh-huh.
I didn't think about that. I thought just because you travel more than I do, and
Right.
I thought that's simply what it was going to be. And they did make a difference, sure, but you also don't fly private. You fly commercial, which helps um, because it's a mode of public transportation versus private. And then also, we were looking because the household was significantly different for us. So it was a matter of our source of electricity, how that all works. But then also, you pointed out something super, super important that is specific to the cool climate one. And I assume that the majority of them are there as well because the multiple ones I've done have asked me for my zip code.
Hmm.
They are based off of the math behind it is based off of an average or data provided for people in your area, right? Like what things look like in your area. And where you live is significantly different than where I live. We live 15 minutes apart,
Right.
but it is just significantly different. It's very uncommon to see things like electric cars and solar panels in my neighborhood. Much more common in your neighborhood. So all of those things are taken into consideration. And so my numbers might seem much different because it's based off of where I live versus where you live.
Yeah.
It would be really interesting to put my data in your zip code. I wonder what that
Yeah.
would look like.
I would like to play around with this a lot
Yeah,
more because I think, um, and this is what we've talked about, that we had a lengthy conversation before we started recording
we did.
on trying to understand the numbers and what they really mean and your impact. And I think that comparing things would help. And like, I would love to. Um, and I asked one of our top 5 listeners to run through it and do it.
Yes.
And his was similar to mine. And I thought his was going to be like closer to yours.
Yeah.
Um, and so he uses public transportation a lot.
Mhm.
And um, so I just, it would be interesting to kind of like play around with it too in like cities, because we talked about like, well, we live in bigger houses here than if,
Mhm.
if we were in New York City where we would be living in a very small studio apartment by
Yeah.
ourselves. And
Or
what
with
does that,
four other people.
yeah, or right. And what does that mean? Like, what
Yeah.
does that look like? Does it really impact? Does it make a difference?
Mhm.
Um,
So the next party that you have, can we have a carbon footprint party? That's no. The answer is no. Um, but it would be
You can
fun,
bring it up when
right?
you're taking the trash home
Okay.
with you and just be like,
Well, I definitely think I'll be asking some people in my life other than just us and our
yeah,
top listener
right.
to do this so we can kind of compare all of these things because I will be the first person to admit I'm a believer in this, right? But it's not an easy task. One, to calculate your carbon footprint, not easy. Two, to fully conceptualize and believe in it. It's a much newer concept. It surprisingly, carbon footprint was created by BP, a gas
Mhm.
company. Um, it has grown some traction behind the science and the people that believe in it for sure. I'm a believer in it, but it's not easy to do. It's not easy to
Yeah.
understand at all. So for someone who doesn't, and I'm fully understanding of the fact that you look at it differently than I do,
Mhm.
um, it it is a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It really is.
Well, it's really hard. I mean, it's hard because it's used so much as
Yes.
like, this is why we should do these things. But
Mhm.
then, um, but then just as an idea of like, okay, but like, tell me more about it. Tell me more about it. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, but actually we can't. And it's like, okay.
Yeah,
I-
I definitely think, and this is on me, I probably could have dove way deeper into the research. I don't know to, on average, a common person, how much that really matters or makes sense because it's even hard for me sometimes to understand all of it. So there's definitely more research that can be done understanding all of it. And like I said, there's calculators out there where you can get super in depth. I have done a lot of them and they even made my brain hurt
no.
for sure. So we'll do some research and some comparing. Absolutely. Um, and one of the good things that I found in a lot of the carbon calculators that I've looked at is once you're done and it gives you whatever your number could be, no shaming who has this, who has that. It's simply just saying, hey, this is an idea of what your impact is on the world based on your carbon emissions. One of the best things about it is they give you ideas of how you can change. And some of the things that we talked about were, ironically enough, um, printing. We were like, who still prints stuff?
There are 3 things that you can change
I think
to
there
be,
were
or
four
I think there was
printers, copiers,
computer, which
computers,
that
and Do you print
and print
double-sided?
double-sided. Yeah. I'm like, I don't print anything.
It's just but
So,
it does give you some it says like, "Hey, X is your carbon emissions, your carbon footprint." And 1 through I think there were maybe like 25 different on this specific
mhm.
calculator. Like, do you print double-sided? But also like will you commit to driving more efficiently, or will you commit to the next renovation you do in your home having like a high efficiency whatever, or those types of things. And then it clearly shows you how like it calculates for you what that difference might make in dollars and in your carbon footprint.
It also had, like, what it would cost you to, like,
Oh,
implement it.
I missed that part.
That was the 3rd column. So, like, you, um, wanna do solar panels or whatever. So, like, here's
Yeah.
the cost of installing that.
What
Or,
was the cost of solar
oh, I don't
panels?
know. I
Oh,
just used that as
okay.
example.
I totally missed that. So
Don't you know how much they cost
I
to
do,
have
and
them?
they ain't cheap. They're getting less expensive, so that's great. I totally missed that part. I'm gonna have to go back and look at that. But just some ideas of how you can change or how you can offset your carbon footprint. We talk a lot about this, and then also the idea of carbon offsetting. So these can be things. Some of the ideas that it gave me were things like planting trees, because trees obviously capture carbon and bring them back into the ground, and then also donating money to programs that are building solar and wind farms, have it carbon capture technology that they're working on, those types of things. So it does give you a monetary aspect of how I can do something different or better, however you look at it. Um, it's really important to note that carbon offsetting is a great thing to do. It's not a long-term solution. So looking at it like what's the best way to look at it? I can offset what I'm doing. I can recycle my plastic. That's offsetting, right? So long-term solution is not consuming the plastic in the first place. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the concept behind it, right?
Yeah. But if you were Taylor Swift and
I'm not. Surprise!
almost, but you, like, her because people talk about her flying she has her
Yes.
private jet, that she uses, to fly here and
Oh,
everywhere.
yes. Mhm.
Um, she's not going to change, like, her business is to be everywhere,
Yeah.
right? She cannot fly commercial.
Yeah.
That's
So
I just can't even imagine.
she
Right.
buys carbon credits, which is a version of carbon offsetting.
Right.
Yeah. Which
So
is a great
that
option.
is, like, for that, that's the option. Like,
Mhm.
that's the best that I'm not gonna say it's the best she could do, but,
That's one of her options.
like,
Yeah, absolutely.
so there are cases where, like, look, you may not be able to change, like, exactly what you're
Yeah.
doing because
Yeah.
because
And I think we talk about that a lot, right? Like, do what fits your lifestyle best. I'm not Taylor Swift. I mean, I could definitely be her double, but um,
twinsies.
twinsies. Um, but I respect the fact that she buys carbon credits. Absolutely. Do I respect that she like circumnavigates the world in the way that she does? And do I think there's a better way to probably do it? Yes. But I don't know her life. I
Mhm.
don't know her life. So whatever, I'm not going to judge it, you know? She's doing in my opinion she's doing something she can to offset it. Long term, are there alternative fuels she can put in her jet? Yeah. So that's something you can do as a long-term goal. Just saying.
Yeah.
Man, this went really broad, like real big. We went like worldwide superstar real quick. Yeah. I love it. I love it. So just I think again, we're talking more on an individual basis.
Yeah.
A non-Taylor Swift individual basis. Uh
Well, but are, like, people buying carbon credits? So aren't aren't the common
companies.
company, mostly
Companies.
companies
Yes.
and like people like her
Yes.
that have a
Which
billion
she's kind of a
dollars.
company, right? Like she's a
Yeah.
brand.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you have the ability to do that, then it is an option. Absolutely. Because it's investing in those types of things like companies that are doing solar winds, like those types of things. Um, it, long term, though, it's thinking about different
Mhm.
ideas. And I think that's just key to keep in mind if you're Taylor Swift or a large corporation, you know, to be able to offset that. Um, as a as an individual, I think it's much easier to think about the daily activities that you're doing that you can change or update in order to impact your carbon footprint.
So I have a question
I know
for
you have
you.
lots of
Well, this
questions.
okay. We skipped over this part, but there's a
Oh, we did?
goal,
Okay.
right,
Sorry.
of what our carbon
Oh,
footprint should be.
we did skip over
So
it.
the worldwide average is 5.
And US average is 16. That's
Yes.
very
But
important.
the
Yeah.
goal
hmm
is what?
So, if we're talking about being net zero by 2050, which is kind of a worldwide goal, some people have laws, some people have just goals.
Yep.
In order to do that on an individual basis,
Every person in the world.
every person needs to lower their carbon footprint to two, 2 metric tons.
Okay. So you're at 10.
Mhm.
How, how are you going to get there? Do you
I,
know?
at this moment, I'm not fully aware of what that looks like, but it did give me some great ideas. I can start printing double sided. Uh,
Does that say how many does that
it said
save
it was
you?
going to save me point 0.3. Point 0.3. Point 0.3. So I will say that is a lofty goal
It's
because
I just don't know how we're living on 2.
this is not I need okay, so this is not by any means. We discuss this a lot. You are at a certain point in your journey and I am at a certain point in my journey. And those are very different points,
Yeah, I
right?
know.
So someone who has a 10 metric ton carbon footprint, I have solar panels on my home.
Yeah.
I have a heat pump in my
Yeah.
home. I compost all of my food. I drive an electric car. I do
You don't buy things.
uh,
You don't.
yes,
You're
I do probably at least 80% of the things on average of the things that an individual can do in order to lower their carbon footprint. So the idea that I have a 10 and I need to get it to 2 is overwhelming.
yeah.
Overwhelming. There are many, many aspects that we have not talked about, at least on this podcast, maybe in person, of things that I could do different. But I don't know that those can get me down to 2. Um, in my personal opinion, it's going to take um, an effort on not only an individual basis, but on a worldwide commerce
Yeah.
capitalism type basis. So this was the basis of our discussion earlier was how does the carbon footprint of a company I'm buying from affect my carbon footprint? So if that's kind of the concept behind everyone collectively lowering theirs. So if I'm buying from an eco-conscious company, it's not only going to lower, they're lowering theirs. I'm lowering mine too. So I'm doing a lot of the big things, but I think
Mhm.
what I'm overlooking is a lot of the small things that aren't really obvious to me. Um, I will be the first person to wipe the sweat from my brow and say, "Holy hell, how am I going to do this?" It's a huge goal,
Yeah.
um, but it gives me something to aspire to.
Yeah. Well, and I just looked at I mean that you said that the average in the US is 16
Yes,
and I'm over double that and I feel like I'm an average person.
yeah.
So, and
I
even less than because I don't drive to work.
yeah.
I I just feel like I'm
I think if the more we dive into this, you'll actually see that yours is probably less than you had originally calculated. Again, it's just It's a huge
Mhm.
thing to take on. But I'm really excited to try to kind of like mess around with it
Yeah.
and see what we can do with it and see what other people's are too. Can we calculate Taylor Swift's?
Well,
Uh,
we would need to know what she eats
I'll
every
reach out to
day.
her. I'll reach out to her. Um, no, I think so. We talk a ton about what works for your life.
Yeah.
We are not sitting here saying, you need to recycle, you need to compost, you need to eat less meat. We're not going to, like that. We're here just to provide information to people to kind of give you a better understanding of your impact on the world and how you can possibly choose to do better. And I think this is a really, really good example of this. I think it's a really hard concept to wrap your brain around. I know that we've talked about this. And if it's not right for you to base your life off of this concept, because that's what it is, it's a concept, um, that's okay. That's okay, But if what you want to do is simply just kind of think about what you do every day and how that
Yeah.
affects you and the people around you, that's a great way too.
Yeah.
Like it might not be for everybody. I just want I just know we talk about it a lot, and so I wanna present that concept
Yeah.
to everybody.
Well, and I think that there are people out there that are interested
Yeah.
in making their life better and making the environment better.
Mhm.
But this is provided as the benchmark or a reference point of like, this is bad because its carbon footprint is this.
Yeah.
And so I guess if you don't completely understand it, you just have to like go with it. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you just have to be like, okay, I'm just going to do what they're saying without like fully understanding it, which is very difficult for me to
Yeah.
do. I'm a why.
What did you
I'm
say?
like the
You're a very
five why.
analytical person.
I'm an analyst, yeah.
Yeah.
And I am always asking like why,
And I think
and
that's
understanding
great.
it.
I think
Um,
that's where you should be
yeah,
as a human in general, but also very specific
but
to
in
what
this,
we're doing.
it's really hard when you're like, but you can't actually get to the answer
Yeah.
easily.
Yeah.
And you just kind of have to have that trust.
Yeah. Do you think that it's maybe possible to just kind of like have the concept in the back of your mind of like, hey, I have this resource, but I don't necessarily have to use it. So I can use it to understand what people are telling me.
Mhm.
This is the impact on my carbon footprint, or this is the carbon
Yeah.
footprint impact that this company or so has. But just like kind of having it as a resource because it again, I'll
Yeah.
admit it's a lofty, lofty concept to understand.
It's gonna be kind of like fake it till you make it, right?
I
You're
mean,
just
isn't
gonna
that what
have
we're
to
all
like,
doing?
yeah. Do you understand what carbon footprint is? Sure.
Sure.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Yeah.
And then you just keep doing it, and then maybe
Yeah.
uh,
I
one day you'll get it.
I applaud the idea that you are just trying. You know? I mean, that's what we're all kind of doing, right? Um it's it's a lot. It really is. But I know that we really wanted to focus on this topic to just kind of bring this information forward because we do notate it a lot. One last point. One last point. Um, a lot of this stuff is out of our control. How companies, legislation, that kind of stuff affects our carbon footprint isn't necessarily on a day-to-day basis in our control. What is in our control is the idea of who we're voting for. So, in the U.S., very recently, we've had lots of policies passed to include money for reducing climate change, impact, and a goal for carbon neutrality by 2050, and some goals for 2030. So just keeping that in mind. I like to refer to the Green New Deal. It's not actually a thing in the US. We discussed this. It is a European thing. But
Yeah.
what I really like is what the past administration has done with the Inflation Reduction Act. It's a great example of some green legislation. So really keeping the idea of the carbon footprint in mind going forward and how your vote matters for
Mhm.
that going forward. How you vote, your prerogative, 100%. Just, if you are on a sustainability journey, having the idea of your carbon footprint and how other companies and other legislation impacts your personal footprint, you know, just an idea.
Yeah, and we talked about this a couple episodes ago about like the laws in California and like
Yeah.
how sometimes it just has to be put into law to make the changes
Yes.
and forcing people to do it. So it's just something to keep in mind that as you're trying to get your carbon footprint from 10 to 2, like you're not going to be able to do it on your own, right? Is
It's a
that
collective
is
effort.
that a true that's a true statement, right? Like
That there is
because
not a truer statement that has been said in this episode. It is 100% a collective effort.
yeah,
Yes.
and collective not just as consumers.
Mhm.
Like it is collective as in um our entire like companies. Um
Ecosystem.
yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm,
ecosystem, is that a
sure.
good word?
Yeah. It's a word.
It is a word. It's everybody's
Yeah.
effort that's gonna make a difference, for sure. Okay, now to wrap it up,
We have a green
and
new thing.
we do. Um, I I think this might have been our green new thing before. Um, it's education. Specific to this episode, it's important to research. I absolutely encourage everyone to do their own carbon footprint. Whether or not you take it to heart as much as I do, that's fine. But just to see, right? Just to kind of see what your life looks like according to this calculator, it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to look at some of the ideas that it gives you to make a different impact.
Yeah, just print double-sided.
Print double sided. That's all I have to say.
Well, thank you so much for explaining carbon footprint and some of the things
I,
that we can
I
do.
did the best I could.
So
Yeah.
I think it was a great episode. So
Okay.
thank you very
Good.
much.
Good.
And you can find us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all the places where you can find podcasts. I don't even know. We're on the internet, I
Yeah.
think.
Just we're
Um,
out there. We're out there.
I guess if they're listening, then they found us somewhere.
Yeah, but tell your friends.
Tell your
Tell your
friends,
friends.
like, follow, share, subscribe, rate, all the things. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.